Chapter 1: The Veiled Terror. The starship Elysium drifted through the void, its hull glinting under the distant light of a dying sun. On board, the crew moved in hushed silence, their eyes darting toward the sealed chamber at the heart of the vessel. Inside sat Princess Vera of the Zalthari, the most feared diplomat in the known galaxy. She was called the Veiled One. No one had ever seen her face. Rumors swirled like cosmic dust. Some said her gaze could melt steel, others whispered that her eyes held the secrets of a dead civilization. The few who had dared to look upon her had either gone mad or vanished without a trace. Captain Elias Vance, a grizzled human veteran, adjusted his uniform as he approached her chamber. The Galactic Council had ordered him to escort the princess to a peace summit, but no one had told him how to survive the journey. His first officer, Lieutenant Mara Cole, gripped his arm. "Captain, you can't go in there. No one comes out the same." Elias smirked. "Then it's a good thing I've never been normal." The doors hissed open. Chapter 2: The First Words. The chamber was dim, lit only by the soft glow of holographic constellations. Princess Vera sat upon a floating throne, her body draped in iridescent robes, her face hidden behind a veil of shifting black silk. "You are late, human," she said, her voice like liquid shadow. Elias bowed, just enough to be respectful. "Apologies, Your Highness." The warp drive needed recalibrating. A silence stretched between them. Then, without warning, she leaned forward. "You are not afraid." It wasn't a question. Elias shrugged. "I've faced worse than rumors." The princess tilted her head, as if studying him. "Then you are either very brave, or very foolish." He grinned. "Why not both?" For the first time in recorded history, the crew outside heard something impossible. A soft, melodic sound. Princess Vera was laughing. Chapter 3: The Question That Changed Everything. Days passed. The crew kept their distance, but Elias found himself drawn to the princess's chamber. They spoke of war, of politics, of the strange beauty of dying stars. One night, as the ship sailed through a nebula, Elias leaned against the viewport. "Why the veil?" The air grew heavy. Vera's voice turned icy. "That is not your concern." Elias didn't back down. "I think it is. You're here to negotiate peace, but how can anyone trust someone who hides?" Temperature dropped. The lights flickered. "You do not know what you ask," she whispered. Elias took a step closer. "Then show me." Long pause. Then slowly, Vera raised her hands to the veil. The fabric fell. Chapter 4: The Truth Behind the Veil. Elias expected horror. Instead he saw beauty, but not in the way he imagined. Vera's eyes were pools of swirling starlight, galaxies spinning within them. But they were also sad. So unbearably sad. "You see now," she murmured. "My people are empaths. We feel everything. Joy, pain, love, hatred, it floods us. The veil protects others from our power, and us from theirs." Elias didn't look away. "That's why they fear you. Because you know them." She nodded. "And now you will too." A surge of emotion crashed into him. Centuries of loneliness, the weight of 1,000 unspoken sorrows. He gasped, but he didn't pull back. When it faded, Elias was on his knees. Vera's voice trembled. "Now you understand." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "No. Now I see you." Chapter 5: The Summit and the Sacrifice. When they arrived at the peace summit, the other delegates recoiled. Princess Vera was unveiled. Chaos erupted. Some fled. Others demanded her imprisonment. Elias stepped forward. "She's not a weapon. She's a person." The council leader sneered. And who are you to speak for her? Vera answered for him. The first one who ever asked. Then she did the unthinkable. She reached out, clasping Elias's hand in full view of the galaxy. A shock wave of emotion rippled through the room. Fear turned to understanding. Understanding turned to awe. For the first time in centuries, the Zalthari were not monsters. They were seen. Epilogue. The legacy of the unseen. Years later, Elias stood on the bridge of his own ship, a message blinking on the screen. The veil is lifting. They are ready. He smiled. Some legends were meant to be broken, and some eyes were meant to be seen. Final chapter. The legacy of the unseen. The grand hall of the Galactic Summit trembled in the wake of Princess Vera's revelation. Delegates from 100 worlds stood frozen, their fear dissolving into something far more dangerous. Understanding. Elias Vance still felt the echo of her emotions in his bones, a storm of centuries-old loneliness finally breaking. The council leader, a stern Rigelian with scales like polished bronze, was the first to speak. This changes everything. Vera's starlit eyes burned with quiet defiance. It was always meant to. One by one, the delegates lowered their weapons. A Therian ambassador, whose species had once waged war against the Zalthari, stepped forward. If your people feel as we do, then all our histories are lies. Elias watched as Vera did something no Zalthari had done in living memory. She reached out and touched the Therian's armored shoulder. The alien flinched, then stilled as a ripple of shared sorrow passed between them. We hid because we were taught to fear you, Vera said softly. But fear is a veil that suffocates truth. The room exhaled as one. The return home. Months later, Elias stood on the observation deck of the Elysium, now retrofitted as an ambassadorial vessel. The stars stretched endlessly before him, but his gaze kept drifting to the holographic missive glowing on the console. The first Zalthari children in 3 generations have been born unveiled. A smile tugged at his lips. Behind him, the doors whispered open. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. He could feel her presence now, like a second pulse in his chest. You're brooding again, Vera said, her voice lighter than he'd ever heard it. Just thinking, Elias replied. We could have died that day. The council might have shot us both. She came to stand beside him, her robes shimmering like liquid night. But they didn't. Because you showed them the truth. No, she corrected, her fingers brushing his. Because you showed me the courage to try. The stars blurred as Elias blinked hard. The last veil. Years turned into decades. The legend of the veiled princess faded, replaced by a new era of Zalthari ambassadors, their faces bare, their voices unafraid. On the anniversary of the summit, Elias, now silver-haired and retired, received a transmission. The screen flickered to life, revealing Vera's ageless eyes. They've asked me to speak before the unified colonies, she said. But I want you there. Elias chuckled. What for? I'm just a washed-up captain. You, she said, are the reason the galaxy sees us as we are. The call ended. Elias stared at his reflection in the darkened screen. For the first time, he didn't see a soldier or a rebel or a man who'd stared into the abyss. He saw the human who'd asked a simple question and changed the course of history. Final scene, the speech. The chamber of the unified colonies was silent as Vera took the podium. Behind her, a hologram displayed the faces of 1,000 Zalthari, young and old, their eyes unshielded for all to see. We were called monsters, she began, because we felt too deeply. But emotion is not weakness. It is the language of souls. In the front row, Elias sat straighter as her gaze found his. And today we speak fluently. The applause shook the foundations of the hall. As the crowd erupted, Vera stepped down, not toward the dignitaries, but toward the old human who'd once dared to ask for the impossible. She took his hand, and the galaxy watched,